Today is Thursday, November 16th. We're talking about the various accounts of what's happening at the largest hospital in Gaza and why it's hard to know what's really going on. Also, it looks like New Hampshire is not willing to give up its spot in the presidential primaries, directly going against Democrats' plans. And as expected, Congress took another step to avoid a government shutdown. Plus, what a new report recommends to keep air travel safe. Why some Starbucks workers plan to walk off the job today in what they're calling a Red Cup rebellion. And how to book an overnight stay at Martha Stewart's house. You'll have a chance today. Those stories and more news to know next. Welcome to The Newsworthy. All the day's news in around 10 minutes. Fast, fair, fun, and on the go. I'm Erica Mandy. Thanks so much for being here. You ready? Let's do this. Well, there is still intense fighting happening in Gaza. But there are different accounts of exactly what's going on, especially at the Gaza Strip's largest hospital. You'll remember Israeli troops raided the hospital yesterday, where thousands of people are taking shelter in what's considered an operation that carries high stakes for both sides of the war. If Israel is able to prove there was a Hamas command center under the hospital, as Israeli and American officials have been saying, that could help at least provide reasoning for the controversial decision to send troops in. But if the intelligence turns out to be faulty, it could bring about more international scrutiny of the whole war, which has already been growing. Videos shared by the Wall Street Journal and Reuters show several damaged hospital buildings, roads filled with debris, and apparent casualties. And the Israeli military shared video of weapons and combat gear that troops say they found in the hospital. But telecommunications equipment and data centers have shut down, so it's really not easy to get much more information out. And of course, it's not just the hospital dealing with all these issues. The UN's humanitarian agency chief said, quote, "Carnage in Gaza reaches new levels of horror every day." The Hamas-controlled Gaza Health Ministry says more than 11,000 Palestinians have been killed in total, mostly by Israeli airstrikes, which is one of the largest tolls in any air campaign this century. Though Israeli officials say they're the ones responding to last month's attack that killed more than 1,200 people and was the most deadly assault against Jews since the Holocaust. All that being said, for the first time since the war in Gaza began, the UN Security Council passed an official resolution. It calls for 1, extended days-long humanitarian pauses in Gaza, and 2, the unconditional release of all hostages being held by Hamas. The resolution is legally binding. Still, Israel has called it meaningless and reiterated its stance that all of the more than 200 hostages need to be released first before there is talk of humanitarian pauses. So, to be continued. The latest Washington, D.C. protest over the war in the Middle East became pretty tense last night, with clashes breaking out between protesters and police officers. It happened outside the Democratic National Committee's headquarters, where an event was happening. All members of Congress had to be evacuated from the area, and nearby House office buildings were put on lockdown. A group of protesters was demanding a ceasefire in Gaza. But the U.S. Capitol Police say the protest was illegal and violent, so they stepped in to break it up. Though protest organizers say there was nothing violent about it until police got there, that officers pushed and shoved peaceful demonstrators, and that more than 90 protesters ended up getting hurt. But at least one Democratic lawmaker who was in the DNC headquarters at the time backed up what police are saying and explained that protesters were trying to break into the building and using pepper spray against officers. In the end, police say 6 officers were treated for injuries and 1 person was arrested for assaulting an officer. Well, there's a big disagreement playing out between the state of New Hampshire and the Democratic National Committee, all over the presidential primary calendar. New Hampshire announced yesterday it will be holding its primary on January 23rd, which will make it the first primary in the country, as it's been for a century. But the thing is, the DNC planned to give South Carolina the party's first primary next year on February 3rd, saying it wanted to give voters of color a bigger voice in choosing the nominee, since Black voters dominate the Democratic electorate in South Carolina. But New Hampshire has a state law that says its primary has to be first. So yesterday, New Hampshire's top election official said his state is standing by that law. And he questioned whether the DNC was really choosing South Carolina first because of diversity or just because President Biden has traditionally done well there. Though there's another argument that New Hampshire doesn't actually care about the state law and tradition as much as it cares about money. Typically, having the first primary in the nation means a lot of money spent early on. Either way, New Hampshire faces punishment by the DNC. It could lose delegates to the Democratic National Convention, and President Biden's name won't be listed on the New Hampshire presidential primary ballot, though voters will be able to write in his name if they want. By the way, this back and forth is just about the Democratic primary. The GOP contest will have the same date in New Hampshire without any objection from the Republican National Committee. Keep in mind, the Iowa caucuses happen even earlier in January. The DNC wanted Iowa to hold off too, but they worked out a compromise. Iowa is keeping its early caucus date, but won't actually release the results until Super Tuesday in March. And there are other states where the Democrats and Republicans will hold their primaries on different dates. So stay tuned. Both chambers of Congress have now signed off on a plan to prevent a government shutdown, this time with a few days to spare before the deadline. The Senate passed the same spending bill the House did earlier this week. So it's now headed to President Biden's desk, and the president says he plans on signing it. Remember, this plan temporarily funds some federal agencies to January 19th and others to February 2nd. So it basically keeps funding as it is until lawmakers can come to an updated agreement next year. Then the plan is to discuss what President Biden wanted: billions of dollars for Ukraine, Israel, border security, and more. Plus, Republicans are still pushing for deep cuts. But for now, any crisis has been averted, and Congress is now off for Thanksgiving break. We have much more news for you still ahead, but first, a quick break for our sponsor. Let me take one thing off your to-do list this holiday season, and that is finding a deodorant that can keep you smelling fresh and clean through all of your shopping, cooking, traveling, whatever. Lumi Whole Body Deodorant is my new go-to. And Lumi is unique because you can truly use it anywhere on your body. In fact, Lumi was actually created by an OBGYN who found BO is not just an underarm thing. It's an all-over thing. But regardless of where you use it, Lumi is proven to keep working for up to 72 hours, aka 3 days. And it's not just the stick deodorant that's great. I also love the body wash in the clean tangerine scent. Plus, the on-the-go deodorant wipes in the cool cucumber scent are so convenient and effective. Lumi's starter pack is perfect for new customers. It comes with a solid stick deodorant, cream tube deodorant, 2 free products of your choice, like mini body wash and deodorant wipes, and free shipping. So as a special offer for our listeners, new customers can get $5 off Lumi's starter pack with our exclusive code and link. And for a limited time, returning customers can get $5 off their next purchase of $30 or more, too. So use code NEWSWORTHY at LumiDeodorant.com. That's LumiDeodorant.com. Thank you, Lumi, for making this holiday season smell a whole lot better. Now back to the news. The FCC has adopted what it's calling the first major digital civil rights policy in the U.S. Basically, it means regulators will start scrutinizing internet service providers for any discrimination based on income, race, ethnicity, or another factor like that. The FCC says in the past, there's been less investment into building, upgrading, and maintaining internet access in lower-income, less white neighborhoods. And the deals offered haven't been as good as those offered in comparatively wider and higher-income areas. So with that, the service has been worse or non-existent for certain communities. It's a problem that's often referred to as the digital divide. Well, now the FCC will be able to fine telecom companies for inequality. Supporters say this is key to making sure everyone has access to service that's now essential to modern life. But the industry's main trade association calls the regulation unnecessary and says it's going to hurt investment overall. Some critics are calling the policy a power grab by the FCC and have warned that new policy could end up being challenged in court. At least for now, though, the rule is final. Thousands of unionized Starbucks workers are walking off the job today, which happens to be one of the busiest days of the year for the coffee chain. Employees are upset over staffing and scheduling issues at Starbucks, especially for today's Red Cup Day promotion. That's the annual event where customers can get free red reusable holiday-themed cups if they order a holiday beverage. Starbucks Workers United, though, says it's one of the most infamously hard, understaffed days for baristas who need help handling lines out the door. But Starbucks is pushing back, saying the union has been unwilling to negotiate and won't meet for contract talks. The union represents employees at about 350 Starbucks across the country, which is only about 4% of all stores. All employees are expected to be back on the job, though, by tomorrow. Well, some of the world's most popular apps announced new updates this week. For example, Instagram is now letting people use artificial intelligence to create custom stickers from their own photos or videos. Instagram also added new photo filters, new tools to scale, crop, and rotate clips on Reels, and new text-to-speech voices. Over on Google, users will now be able to add notes to links they see in search results and read other people's notes, too. The search engine says the point is for users to see helpful tips about an article or topic from both experts and everyday people. But these notes won't appear on content about sensitive topics like elections or health. The company also says it's going to have some protections and humans reviewing these notes to make sure they're helpful and safe. And then there's Google Maps. One of the new updates is a social feature designed to help people plan and collaborate with their friends. So you can share certain locations, start a list to plan an event, trip, or hangout, or vote on group activities, just as a few examples of what's now possible. All of these new updates are rolling out in the coming weeks. Thanksgiving is coming up, so who better to get inspiration from than the queen of entertaining? Martha Stewart is giving you a chance to see how she does it up close with an overnight stay at her upstate New York farm. She listed her guest house on the 153-acre estate on Booking.com. The stay includes brunch with Stewart herself, prepared by a James Beard award-winning chef, and other Thanksgiving-inspired activities. This stay is for up to 2 people, for one night only, the Saturday before Thanksgiving. But the chance to book it is on Booking.com on a first-come, first-served basis starting today at noon Eastern. That's it for the main news today, so now it's time for Thing to Know Thursday. But first, this episode is sponsored by Copilot. I'm in a busy season of life right now. So even though exercise and moving my body always make me feel so much better, it's not always easy to stay consistent. And that's why I'm really glad I have Copilot, keeping me on track so I can stay healthy, both physically and mentally. This is a service that connects you with an affordable, real-life personal trainer. My trainer is Megan, and she is fantastic. And because of my needs right now, she made my plan really convenient for me. So they are short but effective workouts and stretches that I can do right from home. But your trainer will come up with the best plan for your lifestyle, and you choose whether you like to go to the gym or not. I can't believe I get all of this, a personalized plan and accountability without the hefty price of traditional in-person personal training. So I would love for you to follow my lead to get fit and feel fabulous. Give Copilot a try to find out why it was listed by Forbes as the top-rated personal trainer app of 2023. Head to go.mycopilot.com/newsworthy to get a 14-day free trial with your own personal trainer. That's go.mycopilot.com/newsworthy to get a free 14-day trial with your own personal trainer. Take a backseat and let Copilot help you reach your fitness goals. Now back to Thing to Know Thursday. So a new report is demanding urgent action to make sure air travel in the U.S. stays safe in the long run. The FAA had hired outside experts to review safety issues after a series of near collisions at U.S. airports. And you might remember earlier this year, outdated systems led to an FAA outage that caused the first nationwide flight halt since 9/11. Of course, the airline industry and U.S. air traffic have felt strained since air travel saw a rapid comeback from the pandemic. And sure enough, the expert panel cited concerns about inconsistent funding, outdated technology, and air traffic control staffing shortages. To be clear, the report never says that flying in the U.S. is unsafe, but it just says these issues are eroding safety measures that are unsustainable over time. So the review team suggested a series of recommendations. For example, ensure the FAA is not impacted by government shutdowns, and it calls on more funding for the agency to help deal with an equipment replacement backlog worth billions of dollars. The report also says there should be changes to how air traffic controllers are trained. The FAA is responding, saying it's welcoming these recommendations, adding that it has taken some steps to reduce the risk of close calls on runways already. Well, thank you so much for listening today. We'll catch you up on more news to know tomorrow. Until then, we hope you have a great day.